Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Aero Fighters 2, a classic Neo Geo shoot 'em up now available for modern consoles. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. Aero Fighters 2 is the most recent addition to the Arcade Archive Neo Geo collection, courtesy of Hamster. So we have the usual trappings of the Arcade Archive collection here. There's of course the English version, the Japanese version, which happens to have a different name. It actually goes by the name Sonic Wings in Japan. Our usual high score and caravan modes, where you're trying to set the highest score in 1 continue or 5 minutes, respectively. As usual, we'll be looking at the English version today. We get our controls, and then we have the Neo Geo system startup. Neo Geo. Max 330 Mega Pro Gear spec. Aero Fighters is developed by Video System. Although the team that was behind the original Aero Fighters would split off after Aero Fighters to form the company Saikyo. Still, we definitely have a really awesome title in Aero Fighters 2. We'll throw some credits into the machine and press start. We're taken to our character select screen. Here's one of the differences between the first title and this game. So in this game you can pick between 8 different characters. In the original Aero Fighters you were basically picking between 4 countries, and then if you were playing 2-player it would be your second player would always be paired to the country of the first player's choice. I am a ninja. My life is lonely and difficult. Here we're playing as Hien. I really like the way that his shots happen to both look and act, so that's the reason I went and picked him. He is flying an FSX Japanese fighter, basically derived off of the US F-16. So we start the game always in the same stage, basically kind of a futuristic looking Kyoto with all these enemies here. The game itself is a relatively straightforward vertical scrolling shoot 'em up. We have the ability to shoot, and we also have a bomb. The bomb is unique to each character, so all of the 8 characters have a different type of bomb. They'll act in different ways. Some are really focused, others are screen clearing. There's even one that briefly stops the scrolling of the screen and I was about to say pauses the enemies, but that's not quite right. Freezes the enemies would probably be a better term. We already find ourselves the first boss at Super Kyoto Station. So for this boss, we'll go and use Hien's bomb a little bit. It actually is more of a laser that deals a lot of straightforward damage, though it seems like it's not as powerful as it looks like it should be. Still, with a little bit of careful dodging around the bullets this guy fires, Stage 1 is now clear. Fly to Paris and save the city from destruction? Yes, sir! So, there's actually some random stage selection in the game itself. There are a lot of stages that are set where they come in order, but some of the stages like Paris, New York, and the Amazon are actually randomly drawn. So, depending on your luck of the draw, the stages you get will be different. So, as far as our power-ups are concerned, we start with a base level shot, and then for each P we pick up, we increase the power of our shot up to 3 levels. Although, the 3rd level only lasts a set amount of time. Once you've fired enough shots, it'll wear off and you'll be back to essentially power-up level 2. Something to keep in mind. So, part of what I like about Hien is once you get to level 2 with his shot, he has a missile that's basically homing shuriken, in addition to the awesome kunai shots that his fighter fires. So part of the fun is managing your timing for when you pick up power-up so you can get the most effective use of your high levels against the boss. So here we're at the boss of Stage 2, which in this case is a pair of stealth fighters that kind of look like Concorde jets. So I never was aware that Concords were actually armed, but that's what we've got here. Although it's appropriate that this would be the boss over France, as the Concorde was a European-developed aircraft. Next target, enemy force in the Atlantic Ocean. So there are a couple bonus stages that come up throughout the course of Aero Fighters. Stage 3 and I believe stage, was it 6 or 7? Well, somewhere around there. Where you're basically fighting all these enemies that will drop power-ups. And, of course, you'll hit max power pretty quickly, but as you pick up additional power-ups, you'll score massive points. 2,000 for each power-up you pick up. And that's actually quite large in this game. So that makes he another awesome character. There are at least one other character that has a homing missile as well, that helps you destroy all the enemies in that stage. So, useful. We find ourselves now in the Amazon. So, it's interesting that there is so much English and an interesting, almost like racially insensitive translation for the English version of this game. I'm not sure how the original Japanese came across, but it just strikes me as something that we wouldn't really see these days. Oh, and also in several stages we also have destructible buildings and ground units that will leave bonus items that are usually represented by monetary values. I'm not 100% sure what the CZ in this particular case indicates, but the values for those are random. Here we are at the boss of Stage 4. So at this point, I rarely play shoot-em-ups all the way to 4 levels in. So that tells you that Aero Fighters stages are actually relatively short. We've got a total of 10 stages in a loop in Aero Fighters. And once you complete like one loop, then you'll be sent back through the loop again. So that's basically what we have as far as Aero Fighters is concerned. Negative flavors I have for it, I take some issue with the sound design. Some of the sound effects, like the explosions, are pretty decent, but the shot sound effects, as well as the music, I feel are pretty weak for a shoot-'em-up. Those are always something that I look forward to hearing. And then there's also the short stages. They're made up by having a lot of them and having a standard, like, one loop through to get to your credits, but it still means that we'd have quite a few short stages. As far as the plus flavors, though, I really like kind of the silly feel that the game has. We have a lot of really bizarre characters. I didn't have the time to show all the characters in the character select, but we even have like a baby pilot. There's also a dolphin that you can who like claims to be the world's first dolphin pilot, and I can definitely believe that. So the game itself doesn't take itself very seriously. It's quite silly, and the brief cutscenes as you go and start a stage definitely reflect that. And that's one thing I really like about the title. It also just has a really good classic shoot-'em-up feel where you're going through shooting everything. There's also a lot of great animation to the stages. Going over this amusement park, for example, it might have been hard to see, but there even was like a roller coaster moving through things. We blew up a Ferris wheel. There's also all the real world fighters that we see, even if we see them in a way that's not portrayed very realistically. I still like the fact that we have ships like the F-117 and F-14s, F-15s, the FSX here. And also, the presentation, as usual, of the Arcade Archives collection is great. You have the ability to change the difficulty, up the lives, change the way the continues go and work. A lot of awesome systems here. So, this is yet another title that I can recommend from Hamster's Arcade Archive collection. Definitely a worthy shoot-'em-up to try. I've actually been meaning for quite some time to get around to the Sonic Wings Aero Fighter franchise, and I just hadn't done so yet. So I appreciate the release, as it more or less gave me a reason to look into the franchise itself. So there we have it, another solid recommendation from Chef Fitaurus. Anyway, I want to thank you so much for coming out and joining me for Shoot 'em Up Saturday today. And as always, I look forward to seeing you again next week.